This is like being in a relationship with a psychotic individual who says, if you break up with me, I'm going to the nearest shopping mall or the school or the church and I'm killing everybody I can possibly kill. It is no different whatsoever. Just imagine the reality of that, okay? That's what the Samson option is. If you were trying to break up with this girl because they're clearly psychotic and maybe things just went wrong, you didn't know, whatever. I don't want to be affiliated with you anymore. I don't want to be your ally. I don't want to be in a relationship with you. You've done things to hurt me, to hurt people I love. I'm not trying to hurt you back. I just want to go separate ways. And the metaphorical partner or Israel, the actual real analogy, say, you can't leave. You leave, we're killing everybody. I mean, this is crazy. This is the world we actually live in. And people don't know the simplest fact about the Samson option and the implications of it. And when you explain the very real analogy of a psychotic relationship that you need to get out of, but they won't let you because if you leave them, they're going to kill everybody they possibly can. Use that, okay? Use that when you're talking to people about Israel.
The destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the super states that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Good afternoon and welcome to Beholden To Truth. It is your humble host Joshua here with you for another happy hour session, sitting outside of the gym in our mobile office here. Normally, you guys know the drill, but something's a little goofed up today. I reached in my fridge, pulled out a beverage, and I thought I grabbed my pre-workout, but I actually just grabbed a Gatorade. Like, how am I supposed to work out without a whole bunch of artificial stimulants in my system? I don't know what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm just gonna have to tough it today. All we have is a lemon lime Gatorade to get us by in the gym. So that's pretty annoying. I don't know how I did that. They don't even look the same. But I guess I was preoccupied thinking about some pretty amusing stuff, if I'm being honest. A few things this morning, some interactions I had that I wanted to tell you guys about that I think you're gonna get a kick out of, but also help you, as I usually do, provide some articulation on the narrative strategies that we need in order to protect ourselves, our future, our desires as white Christian people to protect the identity of this nation. Things are pretty crazy right now with the LA riots popping off. This is now day 5, I think, of this, and they've only gotten larger each day. And I'm loving it. I mentioned in the last vlog that we are pro riots, not in the sense that we're pro violence or pro destruction. We are pro people taking their mask off and showing us who they are. That's what we support. And it is a huge optics win for us. I've been saying this since the beginning, that I'm loving it. You know, when these Mexicans and other brown people are out there waving their flags from their foreign countries and blowing up cop cars and throwing rocks at police officers and saying, this is our land. It's like, thank you. That's kind of what I have been saying, that you guys are irrationally violent, destructive, not grateful for being here. Now, you all called me racist and said I was stereotyping people when I said that, but it's true. You're telling us that. And, you know, we talk about the PSYOP component of this, that many of these agitators, actors, whatever they are being paid, and lawyers are being sent in to try to protect them from a legal point of view, to try to sit there with a magnifying glass and binoculars, watching all the ICE agents and the police officers to see if they do anything remotely that could even be interpreted as going too far. They need to do what they need to do, whatever they need to do. But there are obviously going to be lawfare tactics employed, in the same thing you saw with the, what was the guy's name in the subway who choked out the crazy black guy? Neely? I can't remember his name. And the same thing you saw with, I forget everybody's name, but the guy who took out George Floyd. It's not Kavanaugh. Is it Kavanaugh? Whatever it is. This is how it always goes. It's the same thing you saw with Austin Metcalf, where he's like, all right, black dude, you're acting up. Got to address this. He gets killed. The other two guys get life in jail. So this is just how it goes. The law system, the minority conglomerate are always going to play the victim whenever they act out and you actually hold them accountable. So it's called an anarcho-tyranny, where the anarchists get to terrorize the law-abiding people, and when you try to stop them from breaking the law, the judicial system supports them rather than the people who are actually trying to protect society. So it's all intentional, but it is a good thing. I've talked in multiple vlogs about these people are going to PSYOP. That's what they do. This is their life. They've spent their entire life PSYOPing us, amassing trillions of dollars, NGOs, other international forces, capturing the media, capturing the education system to implement communist ideologies here within us, within our own children, within all of the other Americans surrounding you. They pump it through the airwaves. They have their musicians talking about it, their favorite actors talking about it. They have their political activists, their Martin Luther Kings talking about it. And so this is all going to come to a head no matter what. Whether or not they're turning up the volume right now to sow division, it was all going to come to a head no matter what. At some point, you have to deal with the threat within. And so if they're going to show us which members are the threat, then that's a good thing for us. Everybody out there fighting back against the implementation of the law, get people who came to our country illegally out. That's the law. If there are going to be people who resist instituting the law, then we should be holding them legally accountable as well. It's the same thing as intervening when a police officer is trying to pull somebody over or stop them from robbing a store. What is the word for that? Something arrest. I can't remember what it is. But that's also a crime. When you jump in and prevent a police officer, a law enforcement officer from doing their job, you're now also a criminal. So everybody who is lining up and obstructing justice, they should also be going to jail. And if they're citizens, they'll go through the due process and do the time for the crime they committed. And if they're here illegally, they should be deported. That should be exactly what happens, no matter what the number looks like, no matter what the financial cost is. We'll take some other shit out of the budget. It is what it is. Boomers, sorry, you're going to have to deal with less Medicare, less Social Security. You know, black people and Hispanics who are taking double your proportion in all these welfare benefits, sorry, your people are acting up and destroying cities, committing more than 2x the crime, 50% of the crime in many cases. So yeah, sorry, you're going to get less food stamps. You're going to get less CHIP. You're going to get less housing assistance. Okay? Until we resolve this problem, which is the existential problem of our country, the foreign invasion, the foreign horde that lives amongst us who don't care about this country, who would love to see it burn, who are only here to enjoy the economic benefits of the people who built the nation, who actually hate our ancestors, by the way. That's why I say I am loving everything that's going on, and I'm actually very impressed with Donald Trump finally doing something, actually delivering, not in any big way. Keep in mind, there's a huge difference between arrest and deportations. These numbers that we've seen on a couple days, it's not every day, but let's just pick one day. Last week there were 2,500 arrests made of people here illegally. That's not 2,500 deportations, okay? They're going to go through a very long judicial process with these lawyers who are being paid by people like George Soros and other Jews to drag out the process, run up the bill, which obviously we have to pay for as well, find some kind of exception in some clause, some subclause of some law to either elongate the process, milk our system dry longer, and hopefully even get them exonerated so they can stay anyway. That's what's ahead of us, okay? It's just inevitable. We've built this bureaucratic legal system where even when you try to do the right thing, some Jewish law expert wants to jump in and say, well, we're going to have to adjudicate this for 18 months on the taxpayer's dime. And then because the police officer didn't do the exact right micro behavior while he was arresting him, the whole thing gets thrown out. that's the shit situation that we're in. But either way, one of the things I was amused by yesterday was this girl influencer. Listen, if females want to be influencers, they need to focus on female activities. Here's how I am teaching my kid how to read. Here's a fun way to do fun activities to educate your child, teach them practical skills. Here's what we do around the house. Here's how I handle my responsibilities as a woman, taking care of my husband, my home, and my children. If you want to be an influencer female, then that's your domain. Okay? What we don't need are women entrepreneurs going out there and encouraging other women to devote their life to servitude of the system, not servitude of men. God's mission, which is to be helpers of men. And we certainly don't need them weighing in on politics, okay? That's the last thing we need. So this one reel I saw yesterday, it's this girl talking about an ICE raid that was like 2 years ago. It's not even a raid happening right now. She's talking about this ICE raid and how they went in there and they arrested like 50 people, or a dozen or a few dozen people, something like that. And they go through the very long court process of criminal background checks, witnesses, testimony, lawyers, all of this, and all of them get off scot-free because apparently there was either a bad tip, bad information, whatever it might be. These individuals who got rounded up, ultimately they couldn't convict them, so they had to let them go. Well, when they rounded them up, it was at a, here comes the sob story. Here's why we have to cancel all the immigration aids. Here's why we have to increase the 20% Hispanic population to 30%. Here's why you as a white person aren't allowed to criticize the changing demographic in the country. Are you ready? It was a 5-year-old's birthday party. And cruel ICE, fascist, Trump MAGA force, whatever you want to say about them, evil white supremacist ICE agents kicked down the door in this 5-year-old's birthday party, and they just looked at all these guys and said, you have tattoos, you're a terrorist, you're arrested, we're gonna get you sent back to your home country. Okay, that's the story. That's what Yahoo News says about it. That's what CNN says about it. And objectively, sure, it is a 5-year-old's party. Ultimately, if it was a bad tip, they acted on bad information, these people ultimately got let go. They didn't end up getting deported. Okay, it is what it is. But now this 5-year-old has to live with the trauma of the rest of her life. Her dad got put in handcuffs right in front of her and blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, I guess we should just give up our country because a traumatic event happened to a 5-year-old. She had to see her husband, or she had to see her father get arrested. Kind of the thing that happens in like 75% of black households. It's not literally 75%, but it's a very, very high number. And plenty of people have it happen to them who are not black or not Hispanic, okay? Guilty or not. There's plenty of children who just have shitty fathers who do criminal things. They get arrested right in front of them, and they have to live with that for the rest of their life. That's what Christianity is for. It is to heal you. You're a human being. You're capable of healing, okay? A traumatic childhood event is not a life-altering curse that sets you up for failure later in life, okay? This is an individual accountable nation. That's how Western civilization works. No crying about childhood when you're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. No pointing to your childhood when you decide not to go to college, or when you go to college but you don't have the work ethic to pay attention, to get through it. No crying about your childhood when you don't have the work ethic to obey directions at your job, be patient, get promoted, work hard, sacrifice your entertainment and leisure time for the sake of making yourself a better person. Your childhood is in the past, okay? We don't want to hear it. It's almost entirely women who believe this whole thing about, well, this thing with my mom or my dad, or the fact that they got divorced, or with some ex-boyfriend, or some bad thing happened to me at some point in the past. And so that's why we have to go change the law and change how all of society works. No. Okay? You're accountable for your life. It's the crying brown child. You know, it's not a meme. It's the real thing. When a woman or some faggot liberal guy sees a crying brown child, all right, okay, invite in 10 million. It's like, are you just, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Oh, look at that poor homeless person. He's so starving. We should have communism. I know it got over 100 million people killed in this century, but that guy's really hungry. They see a school shooting that's usually staged, by the way, by the CIA, FBI, whatever other mass casualty event. Well, we should probably all disarm ourselves so that the government can come and steamroll us, throw us all in the gulag. We should probably ignore what the people who created the country said about the two most important rights of a human life are the freedom of speech and the ability to protect oneself with whatever means necessary. Whether it's an AK-47, whether it's an AR-15, whether it's a fucking bazooka, okay? It doesn't matter. You have to be able to physically protect yourself and your family members and your property, and you have to be able to freely express yourself. Those are the core rights of what it means to be a human being. Those rights are not granted by the government. They're not the government's rights to take away. That's not actually how the Constitution works. That's not the Bill of Rights definition of what a right is. The Bill of Rights say that these are rights of all humans bestowed by God. Okay? They can't be retracted by a government. The role of the government, the only role that they have as it relates to owning firearms and speech, is protecting those rights. The fact that we have to explain this to people is a sad thing, but that's where we're at. So I got some notes here in front of me with a couple other subjects I want to go through. One other comical thing that happened to me this morning. Let me take a swig of this. I can't believe it's not a pre-workout. I am so disappointed in myself. The number one question you guys are asking me is, how can I wake people up? And you also ask, how can I help support you? And so I have a solution for both of those questions. You can head over to my Substack. You'll be able to get exclusive early access to all of my documentaries, my long format content, free ebooks, and even a chance to talk to me one-on-one. You can do Ask Me Anythings. There's several different membership options for your budget, whatever fits your lifestyle. Head on over and get yourself a subscription now. Okay, so here's a pretty funny story from this morning. You guys are gonna love this. Sometimes a silver platter is just put right in front of you and you gotta eat up, you know? I was in a work meeting this morning, just like a kind of team meeting thing, casual, and we do a trivia session. And the trivia question of the day, it wasn't me, okay? By the way, this was not me. I did not set this up. The person hosting the meeting does trivia every time we all get together, just as like a little team building activity kind of thing. And the trivia question was in the category of the Bible. And the question was, this individual was known for pushing down 2 columns and destroying a whole building, killing everybody inside. Which, if you guys are Christians and you're actually read in scripture, you know that that's Samson, right? Well, I got the question right because, you know, I'm a Christian and I've read the Bible. But the funny part of this, though, was somebody else said, you know, that, oh, I should have remembered that from my biblical readings, you know, back when I was a kid or whatever. And I was sitting here thinking, should I do it? Do these people want some more trivia about Samson? I got to do it. I can't hold back. This is not bringing, you know, politics into the workplace. This is just a conversation about trivia. Did you know, since we're talking about Samson, Did you, so this is what I said, guys. I said, here's another interesting thing, trivia about Samson. Israel, their foreign policy, their foreign military policy is called the Samson option, which technically refers to Samson of the Old Testament. And the strategy, the reason they call it the Samson option is because they will unleash their entire nuclear arsenal on the entire world, destroying everybody if they believe that their nation is ever at an existential threat of not existing anymore. So I just laid it out there, I couldn't hold back. I had to do it. This is just trivia, okay? It's not a big deal. They were talking about Samson. It's pretty interesting stuff, okay? If I said the same thing about Russia, if I said the same thing about China, whatever other country you might care about, that they have this policy where they have all these nuclear weapons, and their policy is that they'll use them against everybody indiscriminately if they are ever worried about getting blown off the map. And so I shared that little factoid, that piece of trivia, and one of the individuals' response was, well, that's great. That's winning, okay? That's how you do it. Game, set, and match. Perfectly played. Saw my opportunity. Boom, nailed it. Because now that person's going to be thinking that. When they're sitting there with their spouse on the couch, seeing these news stories about Israel and their war and whether or not America should help, and they're demanding foreign aid and they want us to go fight for them and all this other stuff. 99% of the American population do not know about the Samson option. And as soon as you find out what it is, that it is a completely suicidal nuclear blackmail mentality that says, if we're in trouble, we're killing everybody, including our allies. That immediately changes your perception of this greatest ally bullshit that we've been told by everybody in the mainstream for your entire life. What kind of strategic ally, military alliance is that, where you say, listen, if we're ever in trouble, we're killing everybody? It's like, does anybody else in the world have the same policy? There's plenty of other nuclear capable countries. Russia, China, America, Korea, do they have the same policy that says if we're seriously going down, then we're just going to start nuking whatever countries we can reach? No. So why do we accept this kind of blackmail from Israel? The simple answer is, well, what are you supposed to do about it? How do you stop them? We can't force them to have a different policy. And push comes to shove, like, genuinely, how do you fix this blackmail situation? By the way, this is why JFK tried to not allow them to get a nuclear program. That's why they killed him, one of several different reasons. To stop the foreign lobbying of Israel, to stop the control over the United States dollar, to get it back to precious metals-backed currency. But most importantly, he didn't want them to have a nuclear program for this exact reason. Because these people are satanic, okay? They will use any means necessary to get their way. They do not have a moral compass that says all human life is equal. The reason why America and no other country in the world have this policy is because they actually have regard for human life. Races that aren't theirs, religions that aren't theirs, nations that aren't their own. They understand that we don't just hate the rest of the world and want them all to die because they don't follow the same religion, they don't look like us, they don't have the same culture, they live way over there. Okay, but we don't want them to die. Even if we're about to die, we don't want them to die just because we're about to die. But that's what Jews believe. That's how fucked up that nation of people is. That's how fucked up their religion is. That's how fucked up it is that they are our best ally. That's how fucked up it is that they are running our country. That we have people who think that eye for an eye is still the moral code of human existence. And that's actually far beyond eye for an eye. Eye for an eye would be, whatever country is killing us, we're going to nuke them, and if we both die, so be it. Okay, that's not their policy, though. Their policy is, we're nuking everybody we possibly can, including our allies. They already have them targeted at European capitals. There's a book about this called The Samson Option by Seymour Hersh, I believe it is. So, my opportunity to jump in and red pill somebody about our greatest ally and how the fact that they are blackmailing the entire world with threats of annihilation if we don't get on board with literally everything they want to do, including taking over multiple other countries, at least parts of them, allowing them to genocide their neighbors, allowing them to capture other nations through the capture of their currency, through infiltrating their education system, governments, media, and obviously finance. If we don't just let them do these things, they're gonna fucking kill us all. Like, whoa, okay, we gotta do something. And, you know, I don't envy anybody in national leadership of these countries who want to break free from their alliance with Israel. If you're probably naive, but maybe there's some shred of possibility that there are people in the American government who actually want that. Maybe Donald Trump is one of them. Pete Hegseth isn't one of them. He's over here talking about bringing about the third temple. But theoretically, even if we had people in government who want to separate, this is one of the, if not the strongest complicating matter of it. This is like being in a relationship with a psychotic individual who says, if you break up with me, I'm going to the nearest shopping mall or the school or the church, and I'm killing everybody I can possibly kill. It is no different whatsoever. Just imagine the reality of that, okay? That's what the Samson option is. If you were trying to break up with this girl, or you're a girl, you're trying to break up with this guy because they're clearly psychotic and maybe things just went wrong, you didn't know, whatever. There are some people who use suicide and depression as this kind of a same tactic where they say, well, I'll kill myself if you don't break up with me. That's obviously toxic and dark, and you need to get far away from that too. But this is a whole other level. This is as I said, a threat of violence against other people if you get a divorce. I don't want to be affiliated with you anymore. I don't want to be your ally. I don't want to be in a relationship with you. You've done things to hurt me, to hurt people I love. I'm not trying to hurt you back. I just want to go separate ways. And the metaphorical partner, or Israel, the actual real analogy, say, you can't leave. You leave, we're killing everybody. I mean, this is crazy. This is the world we actually live in. And people don't know the simplest fact about the Samson option and the implications of it. And when you explain the very real analogy of a psychotic relationship that you need to get out of, but they won't let you because if you leave them, they're going to kill everybody they possibly can. Use that, okay? Use that when you're talking to people about Israel. Because that paints a picture, a very clear picture. And they can go and fact check it. Feel free. Get the book or just research it, okay? They don't even try to hide it because they use it as leverage. They're proud of it. So that's the Samson option. I'm doing my work, guys. I'm out here everywhere I can trying to red pill people. What else do I have on here? All right, we're going to bring it home with a very interesting exchange I had on YouTube where I posted up a reel, a 60-second clip from my documentary White Sentience, the portion of it where I was going into the studies on group behavior and how black people have a strong bias of self-preference and an antipathy towards white people. I showed this through 5 different studies, okay? And I'm dropping each study in one little reel. And so I shared the one from Pew Research that talked about how blacks and Hispanics feel about a future minority white America. 40% of all black people say that it's a good thing for America to become a minority white country. and 46% of Hispanics say the same thing. So that's basically half of all the Hispanics who you think are no big deal. Look, in some ways they're better than black people. Yeah, well, half of them want white people to be a minority in this country. And nearly half of all black people feel the same. And when you look at the ones who are neutral on the question, that number becomes 8 out of 10 in both categories, Hispanics and blacks. Okay, 80% of the black and Hispanic population don't care if America becomes a minority white country, and 40 to 46% of them think that's a good thing. That's what the study I shared shows. And that's from Pew Research, okay? That's not some white nationalist magazine making things up, making it seem worse than it is. And this is backed by the exit surveys, the polling data, when they go and cast their vote for the president and they ask them about their political priorities, where do you rank immigration? Black people, they put immigration below the top 10 reasons. They put abortion, they put gay rights, they put income redistribution, wealth inequality, many different subjects. Number 12 is immigration, whereas immigration is the highest priority for white people after only the economy. So anyways, I dropped this study from Pew Research showing the opinion about future minority white America as real. And this guy who has been trolling me lately, whose username is Samuel115, Samuel is a Jewish name, by the way, just going to point that out. He says, why is this alarming? If there is no racial group that is a majority, then no group can impose a racial hierarchy over the others. There will be more racial equality in society. So if we get rid of white people, breed them out of his existence, then there will be no racial hierarchy. Also, over time, mixing will create more genetic diversity within what is considered black, white, etc. So in other words, get rid of actual African blacks and get rid of actual European whites and just mix them all to the point where you have this hodgepodge, indecipherable human being. He then says, new categories might get created. Okay, we don't want to become a new category. Hello? Do Jews want to become a new category of people? Do Asians want to become a new category? Do Africans want to become a new category? It's only Jews who push this race mixing shit. Okay? So, my response, breaking this down. Disparities in IQ of Africans versus Europeans means there will unavoidably be disparities in lifetime earnings, literacy, educational attainment, and crime. This results in a natural, not imposed, class hierarchy. This is why all European societies look dramatically different in every way. This is why all European societies look dramatically different in every way than every majority black city, community, state, or nation. So long as there are whites who are only attracted to other whites, this disparity will always exist. And whites have zero moral obligation to change who they are attracted to. What a grotesque idea. And it is very dark that you have no problem with the idea of people with purely European ancestry becoming extinct, as if we should be okay with ending our lineage in order to raise up black people's genetic differences. Very sick. Hence why it is called white genocide, because people like you seem to see no problem with the white European race no longer existing as a distinct people, and even have the audacity to insinuate whites wanting to protect their own through peaceful separation is immoral and anti-Christian. It is absolutely grotesque to suggest that at a moral level, it is the Christian thing to do to let the white race go extinct so that you can improve the genetics of black people. What kind of fucked up, sick shit worldview is that? That's Jews, okay? Only Jews would say something like that. Even black people don't push race mixing to that degree. Black people, for the most part, when they are honest, they say, you know, I want to marry a black husband, a black wife, because I want my kids to be black. I want my kids to look like me. African culture means something to me. I want to preserve it. I'm not like white people. We have our own inheritance, our own culture. We like the way we say ax rather than ask. We don't want to change that. We don't want to become white people. And I agree with them, all of those sentiments. I want to marry a white woman. I want my kids to be white. I want them to look like me. I want them to sound like me. I want them to respect the same cultural priorities that I have. I want them to hold the same respect for my ancestors. I want them to speak English the way I speak English. Grotesque, absolutely disgusting, this kind of worldview. You're not really a Christian unless you're okay with suiciding the white race so that you can improve the genetics of blacks. What the fuck? Had to call them out, you know? When people force race mixing as a moral position, as if they are somehow more in connection with God or a kinder person, by saying that race mixing is the better alternative to homogeneity because it would somehow create less racial conflict or it would lift up the genetic qualities of all people. The implication of that is that you destroy all of the distinct groups. You're actually destroying the concept of real diversity. Either they're not thinking this through or they actually know this and they just want to destroy whites. And honestly, it's usually the latter. They have stupid goyim white people brainwashed into thinking that this is just a matter of reducing racial conflict. It's not that big a deal. If people want to have interracial relationships, miscegenation, whatever, let everybody do what they want to do. But it's Jews who know that white people as a collective have a strong sense of identity and have a documented history of being the single largest united force against Judaism and the Jewish people. That's why they want Western civilization destroyed. And demographic replacement, white guilt, white shame, all of that, promoting miscegenation and interracial marriage with every single fucking Netflix show, Hollywood movie, Target ad, Nike ad. That's why those things exist. It is not to improve the attributes of black people. It is not because it's just the morally right thing to do. So, you know, these people, they're dangerous. They are dangerous people. This isn't a solicitation or a promotion or a call to violence. I'm not inciting violence against people like that who promote race mixing. I'm not out here telling anybody to go take up arms, as always. I can't do a single fucking video without adding that disclaimer, because people like that, when I say he's the enemy, he is dangerous, his worldviews are dangerous. Oy vey! You know, that's the response. Oy vey! They're inciting violence. There's going to be another Holocaust if you talk about Jews that way. So, all right, guys. I think that's going to wrap. After the rabbi impersonation, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Get myself in the gym. Very depressed that I don't have my pre-workout. I'm just going to have to, like, slug it through. Luckily, it's a pretty light day. It's just an arm day, so I don't need like super amounts of energy to get that done, but I'll make it work. I will work on, by the way, a playlist for you guys, a White Sentience Summer 2025 playlist, and I'll share it up on YouTube. Help you guys out in the gym, get you in the right mind state to make some gains. In the meantime, head over to the Substack. That way you can watch the full 2.5 hours of white sentience. There's so much knowledge packed into this. I've been mining it for these little 60-second reels. I mean, if I wanted to get every nice little knowledge bomb of 60-second material out of it, there's probably 100 in there. 100 to 150 reels worth of red pills, narrative strategy for you to go out and talk about race realism, to confront these reparations and slavery and oppression and all the other garbage that is always tossed at you as a white person whenever you stand up for your fellow whites. I mean, you will come out of there with a full arsenal. How can you be a Christian but also say you prefer living amongst whites? You prefer America to stay majority white. You prefer white leadership. How can you be a Christian and say those things? Every response you need is in that documentary, okay? So that's why you need to watch it. It also helps support the platform and my work. So that's very valuable to me and the mission at hand. And also support the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and the Rumble account as well. We got to build them all in parallel, you guys. So I appreciate you guys' support. Until next time, love you guys. Christ is King.
This A&M professor asks, when is it okay to kill whites? New York professor says having a white nuclear family promotes white supremacy. College professor says some white people may have to die to solve racism. Professor tweets that white people should commit mass suicide. College professor says kill cops, kill all white people, and kill the straights. Professor says all I want for Christmas is white genocide. Trinity College professor calls white people inhuman. Let them fucking die. USC professor calls for a Holocaust against all white people. College professor says white people are conditioned to commit mass murder.